It's now to talk about the potential market implications of this past weekend's violence in Pennsylvania. Jeremy Siegel, Professor Emeritus of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business, Chief Economist at Wisdom Tree. Just over the years, Jeremy, and we've both watched things for a long time, many times it's almost staggering that geopolitical events have less effect than we would expect on markets. And that can be wars, or I remember both Gulf Wars, the way they started. And it seems like the market still trades on something entirely different, usually. Do you expect it to be different this time?
Well, you're right, Joe. I mean, it's ultimately earnings. It's ultimately the Fed, interest rates, monetary policy. When you go back in history, that's important. I would like to comment, because you're talking to Dave McCormick, senatorial aspirant in Pennsylvania, about down ballot effects. In my calculation, if Trump wins, as of course the predicted markets are pushing for, there is no way the Democrats can hold the Senate. Even if they win every single what's called swing Democratic vote, it would be 50-50 with the Republicans holding the presidency. Now, that has enormous implications in terms of, who gets appointed administratively in many of the regulatory agencies. Of course, the judiciary is extremely important. And of course, too conservative, the two most elderly Supreme Court justices, Alito and Thomas, may decide to retire and could be replaced, certainly would be replaced by Trump with younger conservatives. Now, that wouldn't change the 6-3 balance, but that would, certainly cement that majority in for a longer period of time. And we shouldn't diminish the a potential impact of the Supreme Court. I mean, the Chevron decision, we can go down the line about what might affect industries and what might affect the markets, going forward. But, those are, potential longer term. Now, if I were I think the House is still in play, if you want to know the truth. I mean, the mess that the GOP made of the, first couple of years with Speaker is still on the minds of a lot of voters. I still think the GOP probably is favored to keep it. But if I were a Democratic strategist right now, I would say let's try to hold the House, because if they hold the House,
take the House,
then all the Trump tax cuts, well, not all of them, because some of them were permanent, but many of them would have to be renegotiated. So keeping the Senate is important for judiciary, Supreme Court, regulatory, but holding the House would be important, in terms of whether those tax cuts set to expire in December.
Taking the House, taking the House. But right now, it's like almost split. It's so close. So that would make a difference whether, and if it was a larger margin of Republicans, maybe more would get done. Because right now, it's almost as if the Republicans don't control the House right now, which is what you were saying. And that is a fertile area probably for fundraising, everything else for Democrats. I would think you're right about that, Professor.
Yeah, looking at the situation realistically going forward now for the Dems, if they can try to switch, we know really the voting public doesn't mind a check on power, what they say, to have a split Congress so that no one just runs away with one ideology versus the other. But clearly, the market, we'll prefer Trump. He's more free market. He's anti-regulatory, for growth. They're not thrilled about the tariffs, but the truth of the matter is that Trump likes to wield the tariffs as a threat to negotiate better positions on bilateral trade agreements. Whether it really, has a 10% or not, I don't really know, whether that's ever going to happen or not. And there's a lot of things that certainly could offset that. But in the short run, I mean, as you all know, not only is it the question of are we going to let free markets and the entrepreneurial spirit of the economy bubble up as it did, I think, during the first Trump term. And I think that's what the market is looking forward to now. There'll be a second time where those entrepreneurial spirits could rise and boost the stock market.